Plan to write for 4 to 6 hours a day, 8:30 to 12 in the morning. That's a 4-hour break. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing all the rest. And as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to ring. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be trying out another famous author's routine. Today, we're going to be trying out the routine of Sylvia Plath, which is a routine that has been requested over and over and over again. Previously, I've done the routines of Haruki Murakami, Octavia E. Butler, Hayao Miyazaki, Neil Gaiman, Stephen King. I've done so many author routines at this point. However, before we jump into her routine and exactly what it was, who was Sylvia Plath? Sylvia Plath was born in the United States in 1932, and during her short but incredibly prolific career, she wrote poems, short stories, and her only novel, The Bell Jar, which was semi-autobiographical and published in January 1963 under the pen name Victoria Lucas. In a letter to her mother, Plath wrote of the novel, "What I've done is to throw together events from my own life, fictionalizing to add color. It's a potboiler really, but I think it will show how isolated a person feels when he is suffering a breakdown. I've tried to picture my world and the people in it as seen through the distorting lens of a bell jar." A month after the book's publication, at the age of 30, Sylvia Plath very sadly died after taking her own life. She had a really lengthy struggle with mental illness. Sylvia, though, in her life was talented and bold and fearless in her writing.
Soon, soon the flesh the grave cave ate will be at home on me, and I a smiling woman. I'm only 30, and like the cat, I have 9 times to die. This is number 3.
And as described by the US Poet Laureate Robert Pinsky, Sylvia Plath's work was thrashing, hyperactive, perpetually accelerated. The poems of Sylvia Plath catch the feeling of a profligate. Her imagination, throwing off images and phrases with the energy of a runaway horse or a machine with its throttle stuck wide open. All of the violence in her work returns to that violence of the imagination, of frenzied brilliance and conviction. Sylvia Plath had a massive impact on me personally. I read The Bell Jar at 16 and I really connected with that story. I loved the metaphor of a fig tree. I'll talk about this later in the video probably. And also I really love the poem Mad Girl's Love Song, which is maybe my second favorite poem of all time. So what was Sylvia Plath's writing routine? Now I've very deliberately picked the writing routine that she had prior to motherhood. The writing routine that Sylvia Plath had in the last few years of her life was one in which she got up much earlier and it was a little bit more erratic. So according to Fast Company, daily routines were the kind of thing Plath liked to describe in letters to her mother. So we know that she and Ted Hughes planned to write for 4 to 6 hours a day, 8:30 to 12 in the morning and then 4 to 6 in the afternoon. And so as far as her work ethic as a poet and writer goes, Sylvia Plath worked at poetry as a craftsperson, a wildly driven one. She sat down every day and made herself write and churned out the products of her writing until they became fulfilled poems. And then in the words of Ted Hughes, her husband, Sylvia Plath's attitude to her verse was artisan-like. If she couldn't get a table out of the material, she was quite happy to get a chair or even a toy. The end product was for her not so much a successful poem as something that had temporarily exhausted her ingenuity. It's been a little bit trickier for me to find things to add on to this routine because so far this is the most simple and laid back writing routine that I've tried to attempt on this channel. And for some reason in my brain I'm like, that's not enough. Just a time slot is not enough. And so I went and did some digging. I went and looked for some Sylvia Plath inspiration. We know that Sylvia really liked fashion and she was interested in clothes. We know this from The Bell Jar because obviously The Bell Jar was a semi-autobiographical novel. So maybe I will try to wear something ever so slightly 1950s, early 1960s inspired. We also know that Sylvia Plath really loved food. There is a Twitter account called Sylvia Plath's Food Diary, which is dedicated to all the many times that Plath has mentioned food in her essays, her poetry, her writings, or her novel. I did manage to find this example of one of the meals that she ate. She wrote about this in her journal in 1943. For lunch, I had 2 helpings of corn, ham and beans, a glass of water, and the biggest helping of raspberry jello. But then I remembered she was born in the 30s and so she was 11 when she wrote that into her journal. Anyway, did some more digging, eventually found out that she did once make orange tea bread? I think that that's the same as tea cake. So anyway, she made some kind of orange flavored cake in 1961, so I'm also going to whack that onto here. I'm going to make that when I try out this routine. However, before we jump into trying out Sylvia Plath's writing routine, I just wanted to thank the sponsor of this video, which is Day One Journal. Day One is a wonderful app that you can use to help you prioritize journaling. You can use it to organize your creative thoughts or to log your life, travel, food, fitness journeys, whatever you would like. I've been recently using Day One as a mindfulness tool to help me transition from work time to after work time. At the end of every day, I've been setting aside a few minutes to jot down things from that day that I'm grateful for or that I found fun. And I've also been using it to help me document the process of writing draft 6 of my novel. Every time I finish a writing session, I quickly jot down what I did, my notes for the next session, sort of the stats of where I am, and it's really helping me to visualize exactly when it is I'm working on the novel, and also giving me an easy place to access the information that I need for the next writing session. I love that having a premium account means that I can separate out my creative work from my personal reflections by having multiple journals. I can upload unlimited photos per entry, I can upload audio files, and on premium, I can also use as many devices as I'd like. That means that if I'm working away at my desk, I can quickly jot down all of my notes and my thoughts, but if I'm out and about, if I'm at the library and I only have my phone or tablet on me, everything is automatically synced. If you'd like to check out Day One Journal and take your journaling and creative practice to the next level, please feel free to go to dayoneapp.com/ChristyAnnJones and use the code ChristyAnnJones to get a 2-month free trial to Day One Journal Premium. Without further ado, let's try out Sylvia Plath's writing routine. Hello and good morning. It is currently 8:25 a.m. and we're about to start writing for today. As I said, I was going to try my hand at a slightly 1950s inspired outfit. This is not 1950s, but the silhouette is very vaguely reminiscent. I've not worn this specific outfit since I worked in tech, actually. This is what I call reluctant smart casual. As always, if you're new here, hello, my name is Christy. I'm a writer and today I'm going to be focusing on the novel that I'm writing. I'm currently working on draft 6 of my adult fantasy novel. These videos are just a little bit of fun. They are deeply unserious, hence the 1950s outfit and the fact that I'm making orange cake later in this video. Today we're working on chapter 23, which is like roughly around the 50% mark of the novel. Draft 6 is going really, really well so far. I might pop back to chapter 22. I have a little bit of funny stuff I'm working out with those 2 chapters. So in terms of my progress today on the story, it might be a little bit all over the place. It is now 8:30 and I'm gonna get started on work for today. Where my glasses. We're gonna be working until noon. I've got my little timer here and I will set that for 55 minutes and I'll work for this amount of time and then check back in with you. It is now just past 9:30 and I am done with the first work sprint of the day. Now is the time for me to fill you in a little bit on how Project Teacup is currently going. I should probably minimize this because otherwise I'm gonna have to do like a tracking blur every time my head goes in the wrong spot. You would not believe how much anxiety I have that I'm gonna accidentally like spoil something really, really big with my book. Like, you would not believe how many hours of my life I've now spent putting tracking blurs onto videos. But anyway, I digress. We're in the fun bit of the story. First massive chunk of the book has basically stayed the same. The ending has stayed the same, but there's a few central things that have moved around in the middle, and it's like nothing maybe a few things have been taken out, but nothing really, really big has been changed. It's just sort of like been rearranged. So I kind of feel like the Grinch.
This is his, now it's yours, and this is hers, now it's his.
So back in January, I made this like really in-depth plan of what I was going to do with the story. This is just 1/3 of the edits. I listed out all of my goals and then I sort of made a plan for how to achieve all of those goals. And I suppose this is where the background in like working a 9-to-5 has kind of helped me, because I kind of tackled it like how I used to tackle my work KPIs. I was like, okay, well, let's work backwards. This is the thing. This is how we're going to solve it. Let's make a really, really concrete and achievable plan. And all of that has been really helpful. But I realized around maybe the chapter 18 or 19 mark that actually, if I can explain this really easily, the book has roughly 40 chapters. So chapter 20 is roughly in the middle. It's not quite, but it's pretty close. So where I was at chapter 20, the middle of the book, I was happy. And I already have the last like 30,000 words of the ending. Like I'm going to tweak it in this draft draft, but it doesn't need a lot of work. And so really, I'm only now working on this one specific chunk of the novel, but I could see that I was writing myself in such a direction that this draft was going to end up being 130,000 or 140,000 words. And that is way, 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 way too big for this story. Like, it might end up being that this story is a little bit bigger, but I don't want this draft going anywhere beyond 110K. I ideally want it to be around 105,000 words. And so I had this moment of being like, oh no, I'm creating problems for myself. I took this plan that I had back in January and I simplified a few things. And the positive of that is that actually I cut out some work for myself. There's fewer words that I now need to do because I simplified some moments of the plot. And I think in doing so, I've made the story stronger again. Like, I love the iterative process of writing and problem solving, and this is so much fun for me. Like, this is such an essential part of writing. I'm gonna sit down and do maybe another couple hours of writing because I'm finding that I'm kind of in this headspace where I need to buckle down on one thing. When I get into proper concentration mode, I often find it difficult to make videos and write at the same time. So I'm gonna make a cup of tea and then I'm gonna sit down and write probably until about 11 a.m.-ish. I very much have the anime villain glasses going on right now. It's just past 11. I have now finished around my 3rd hour of work. 2.5 hours of work, I can do maths. I wish that I had more anecdotes about Sylvia Plath's routine, but because this is such a simple routine compared to the other ones, like there's no weird smoothies, there's no running, there's nothing, I unfortunately don't have very much to report just yet. Like, this is not dissimilar to what I typically do on a day when I can write for the full day. I do enjoy having a decent chunk of writing in the morning, taking a good break, and then having another session later on, depending on what my energy levels feel like. And this is exactly what that is. I do really appreciate the quotes that I read when I was doing my research for this video. Various people spoke about Sylvia being a craftsperson, how she will never really abandon a piece, and I do identify with that quite strongly. Like, in my mind, an article, a short story, an essay, a novel, whatever it is, it's not complete until it's published. Like, it's not dead until it's finally published, right? Like, even my first novel I worked on, which I've mentioned before, is the novel that I came up with the concept when I was 16. It took me so many years to write. It was this big idea. It was much too ambitious for my skill level, especially at 16. And then I finally queried it in 2020 and it got rejected, and I learnt so much from that story. And that novel will never, ever, 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 ever see the light of day because in my opinion, it's not very good. But there are so many bits and pieces from that novel that I want to recycle. There are bits about the world building that I really love. There's bits about the narrator specifically that I love. That story, to me, even though it will never see the light of day, it's not dead. You know, if I can't get a table out of it, I could get a chair out of it later on. I loved reading that about Sylvia Plath. I love the idea that a piece of writing, if it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to, doesn't mean that it's a failure. You can use it later on. I'm concentrating pretty solidly. I'm working away at chapter 23. I did pop back to chapter 22 and do a few more tweaks on that. I'm now at the point where I'm really having to manage word counts. I have another hour or so of writing. Everything's going really well. I will be actually a little bit sad today to stop myself at 12 because I'm concentrating well. It is now 12 p.m. and we're all done for the first sprint of the day, and I just double checked the time I'm supposed to come back to writing. I'm not supposed to do another writing session until 4 p.m. and so that's a 4-hour break. Like, it almost reminds me of the Brandon Sanderson routine, where Brandon Sanderson will do 2 decent writing sprints in a day, but he'll do one in the afternoon and then he'll do one really, really late at night. I loved that writing routine. It worked so well for my brain. I will go take a break for a bit and then come back to you with a very low effort baking portion for this video. We've had a bit of a time skip. It's now just past 3 p.m. and I am gonna make this orange cake. Now, this was not required as a part of the writing routine, but I told you guys that I wanted to add some more Sylvia Plath themed stuff in here, so I found that tweet that quoted her This big leaf is just like blowing around. Because we're so high up, we don't get a lot of like the birds land on this balcony like once every year and a half. And whenever I see a bird land on the balcony, I just about lose my mind. So I'm just constantly keeping an eye out for birds. Also, I can see our neighbor's cat in the window every now and then, like once a year. With the way this building is angled, I can see the neighbor's cat. It's always a really good day. I did a little bit of research and I am pretty sure that orange tea bread is just tea cake, which is just a standard cake with like orange in it. So if you're British or American and I've just completely misinterpreted it, I'm really, really sorry. I have taken the super laid back route and I've gotten a cake mix. But I've set up my lighting so I can't get to the pantry. Okay, hold on. We can crawl. Oh geez. Yay. Oh my God, ow. I went to Pilates and I can't bend down. My legs hurt so much. We are melting 60 grams of butter. Ow. So while that's microwaving, I did say that I was gonna bring up the metaphor around the fig tree and also Mad Girl's love song again. So the fig tree is a really important metaphor in the bell jar because this story, which is kind of, that's the wrong spoon. This story is kind of a coming of age story for Esther, the main character, through a really tumultuous time, through a really tumultuous experience with her mental health. And so the main character of the bell jar, Esther, considers a lot what she wants to do with her life and what path she wants to take, whether she wants to be a scholar, an academic, a poet. So there's this amazing quote about a fig tree, which I love to bits, and I can't use my phone because my mic is attached, but can I find it in the book? I feel like it was on the left-hand page. The quote from the bell jar reads, "I saw my life branching out before me like the green fig tree in the story. From the tip of every branch like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was a husband and a happy home and children, and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was a brilliant professor, and another fig was E.G., the amazing editor, and another fig was Europe and Africa and South America, and another fig was Constantine and Socrates and Attila and a pack of other lovers with queer names and offbeat professions, and another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion, and beyond and above these figs were many more figs I couldn't quite make out. I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing all the rest, and as I sat there, unable to decide, the figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one they plopped to the ground at my feet." Oh, I love that quote so much. Juice of half an orange, and the zest of half an orange. Hopefully that's enough and not too much. And then of course Mad Girl's love song, which as I said is my second favorite poem of all time after the love song of JR for PRUFROCK. Yes, I know they both say love song in the title, but I read this poem when I was 16 and I also had this printed out and like stuck to the wall of our Tōkyō apartment, and I had part of this poem quoted on my Tumblr for years and I think it's still there. I love this poem, and it's a bit more of a classical style structurally than a lot of the poems that Sylvia Plath has published in Ariel or The Colossus. This is Mad Girl's love song by Sylvia Plath. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I lift my lids and all is born again. I think I made you up inside my head. The stars go waltzing out in blue and red. An arbitrary blackness gallops in. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I dreamed you bewitched me into bed and sung me moonstruck, kissed me quite insane. I think I made you up inside my head. God topples from the sky. Hell's fires fade. Exit seraphim and Satan's men. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I fancied you return the way you said. But I grow old and forget your name. I think I made you up inside my head. I should have loved a thunderbird instead. At least when spring comes, they roar back again. I shut my eyes and all the world drops dead. I think I made you up inside my head. I love it so much. This is probably going to take about half an hour to cook. Yes, I absolutely should have started this earlier in the day. I had like a 4-hour break. I'm about to start my final writing sprint of the day. I'll quickly ice these. It is now past 6 p.m. We are all done with writing for today. This has been the most laid back writing routine video. I barely feel like I've filmed a writing routine video because I didn't have to really make anything weird or get up early or exercise an egregious amount or do anything particularly uncomfortable. Why am I conflating my own discomfort with making a quality video? I don't know what that says about me, but regardless, we're done with writing for today. And I had a really solid day. I worked a lot on chapter 23. I jumped around a bit back to chapter 22 and then to chapter 24. I did some rearranging. There's a lot of problem solving going on here, and so there's not really any point in me even telling you how many words I wrote because I deleted things and it wouldn't be an accurate descriptor of how I work. Also, not particularly relevant to Sylvia Plath because obviously Sylvia was working with short form pieces. The most interesting part of this routine for me was the 4-hour break in the middle of the day. I do wonder what she was doing during that time. I think perhaps if I'd spent more time reading her letters and journals, I may have found out a little bit more insight into what she was doing, but I ended up reading a little bit of Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, which we're reading for our book club at the moment, up to chapter 8 on that book. I went for a walk, I did some fun things, and I do really stand by the fact that taking breaks is absolutely vital, at least for me in terms of concentration and working for longer periods. And then obviously made my orange tea bread. Again, I'm pretty certain this is cake, but if I end up really offending anyone, I'm very sorry. It was delicious. It was just a vanilla cake and I'd swapped out orange for a bunch of things and it was so incredibly good. I wanted this video to be a bit lighthearted, a little bit of fun, a very like laid back writing vlog, because I find that a lot of the content that discusses Sylvia Plath and her life is often very heavy. Obviously her life had a lot of tragedy in it, and I don't think that we should necessarily conflate an artist with their absolute worst moments. Like, I understand that what happened to Sylvia Plath is often a part of the conversation. Obviously her work considered mental health and it considered like her place in society, and obviously that's really vital to her and, you know, the subject matter of her poetry, but she was incredibly talented. I love her writing. I think she's wonderful, and so today I just wanted to have a little bit of fun recreating one of the routines that she had before she was a mother, a routine that was from a slightly more stable time in her life. I've been on this train since I was a teenager and it was really important to me as a teen, and still now. I mean, I reread The Bell Jar maybe like last year and it still really struck me. It was so poignant. It was such a beautiful exploration of mental health. And I don't know, I don't have anything groundbreaking to say at the end of this video. Normally I have a whole critique of the routine, but because it was so laid back, I feel like it was good. I enjoyed it. It was pretty simple. And honestly, that's really all I have to say for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again so incredibly much to Day One Journal for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out that link in the description down below and use my code Christy Ann Jones to get 2 months of Day One Journal Premium. And also finally, I just wanted to thank everyone over on Patreon for supporting my channel. I wouldn't be able to make these videos without everyone over on Patreon. We have a whole bunch of bonus content over there, our book club, our Discord server, so many lovely things. So if you'd like to check out Patreon, there's a link in the description down below. Take care everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.